I want to ask you something. Do you ever look at the people you admire, your role models, the people you look up to in your industry? Or it doesn't even have to be your industry, just the people you admire. Do you ever look at the way they carry themselves, the way they move through life, their confidence? Do you ever look at them and wonder, how did you get here? Right? What did you sacrifice to get to where you currently are? I'm not talking about, jobs they've done, right? Do you ever look past the awards, the job titles, and all of these things? Because I do. I do. I constantly ask myself, how did this person get to this point where they are? Right, the real version of them. Who is the real version of them? Who is the real version of Boluwatife? The environment that they grew up in, the versions that nobody exactly wants to talk about. It exists, or we don't really talk about it, but it exists. And I feel like it makes for authentic stories. These things makes for authentic stories. Conversations like this makes for authentic stories. This is something that I have constantly thought about, and I have decided that I would no longer be thinking about it alone. I would be thinking about it with the world. My name is Boluwatife. Most people call me Tife, but people who knew me as a child call me Messi. And I am your host for the Made of podcast. I'm really excited about this podcast. I am really excited about this season. And I don't know if you can tell, but I am a little bit nervous because this is the first time I'm doing something like this. So bear with me. Right, this is the first season. So there's a lot of trial and error and learning and relearning. So bear with us. Like I said, most people call me Tife. People who knew me from back home call me Mercy. But for the sake of this podcast, you can call me Boluwatife or Tife, as every other person calls me. I am 23 years, and if you had asked me a month ago, I would tell you that I am a founder. However, if you ask me today, as at the time when I am currently recording this episode, I would tell you that I am a builder, because there's a very distinct difference between someone who is a founder and someone who is a builder. I'm currently building a non-profit and an urban development brand. I am a development practitioner, an education activist, a writer, and most recently, the host of these amazing podcasts. So as you can see, I contain multitudes. There are so many parts of my life that exist in just this tiny body. I contain multitudes. My guiding philosophy, the one thing that guides every single thing that I do, the one thing that is at the center of every single thing that I am building, is the question: what does a person need from their environment to become who they are capable of being? And that is what I want to explore. So, welcome to Made Of with Boluwatife. I'm so excited! Yay! I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we get into what the podcast is all about. The real version of Boluwatife. Who is the Boluwatife that you do not see on your screens? I studied aquaculture and fisheries at the University of Ilorin, and every single time someone hears the course I studied, the reaction on their face is always very hilarious. I look forward to it. That is the word. I look forward to the expression on their face when they hear the course I studied, because they're always like, that does not align. How did you get to this point? And I understand. I mean, aquaculture and fisheries has nothing to do with early childhood education. It has nothing to do with education policy. It has nothing to do with development practices. So their reaction is very, very understandable. But if we went back in time and you said, you know what, pick a degree, seeing that you already know what your future is like, I really would not change it for anything. I would still pick my degree over and over again. Not because I want to pursue a career in that particular degree, because getting that degree really changed my life. in so many different ways. And I am grateful for it. I am grateful for the University of Ilorin. I am grateful for my first degree, right? I am a firm believer that our environment highly shapes our outcomes. What surrounds a living thing determines whether it thrives or whether it survives. The same principle that I studied as an aquaculturist is the same principle is what I currently apply in my professional life. I mean, aquaculture involves studying water systems, studying ecosystems designed to either fill or designed to either fuel or support the survival of an organism. At the center of everything I am currently building is the same principle. Designing ecosystems, designing water systems in aquaculture terms that would determine whether an organism would fuel or survive. The only difference is that the organisms here are human beings instead of fishes. The same principles, just in different contexts. I just apply it to people now. Before I started my non-profit ThriveRise, I used to work with startups and social enterprises in marketing and operations. However, throughout all of my years working in marketing, I've always had this nagging feeling that a question was left to be answered, right? I felt like I was doing things, I was acquiring skills, I was acquiring the knowledge. But the one question that needed answer, I was not finding it. And that question was answering what I actually wanted to build. I have always known that I want to build something. I want to build something tangible. I want to build an institution, which now begs the question, what do I build? And the answer did not come once. No, not at all. It did not come once. It came in different forms. It came in experiences. It came with different scenarios that happened over the years that kind of built up to where I currently am. I'm still figuring out a whole lot of things, but every single experience has deeply shaped the outcome of what the next phase of my life would be. It's figuring out what I actually wanted to build and what I want to do with my life did not just come to me once. I did not just wake up and decide that, oh, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I want to work in development. I did not just wake up and decide that this is what I'm going to be doing, right? It was a journey that got me here. In my third year of the university, I remember sharing me the link to the Millennium Campus Fellowship and saying we needed to apply. Everyone in the friend group applied, and surprisingly enough, I got in. I got into the fellowship, which was a 1 year program. As soon as I got in, I decided that, you know what, my project is going to be SDG for quality education, because I've always been deeply interested in education. I've always found learning fascinating in a way that is different from others. There are so many things that needs to be changed in the education industry. I am living proof that the current system of education that we have does not support everyone. And I realized that I want to make that change. So I chose my project in, SDG for quality, and then something just clicked. Like, I realized that, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do all along. However, I did not, take the action immediately. After my first project with the Millennium Campus Fellowship, I remembered working with about two schools, right, in Kwara State. I just stopped any impact projects that I was doing. I was in 300 levels, so I was still a student. School politics, with my academics, with work, and then the impact projects. After my first project, I just stopped. Then in 400 level, I just decided that I didn't want to wait anymore. Whether I like it or not, the years would go by, the months would go by, and what would remain would be what you actually did. And then I decided that I wanted to start a non-profit at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night. Whenever I make decisions, it often appears like they are irrational and not well thought out. But my decisions are often vetted from ideas that have been nursing in my heart for months and months and months that I did not act on. And then one day I just wake up and decide it is time for me to do this. In the middle of finding sleep, I just decided it is time for me to do this. I just decided that I wanted to start a non-profit, and I built the entire plan for it. Oh, what do I want our vision to be? What do I want our mission to be? What do I want it to be called? Opened all of our social media pages and started planning our first project. So our first project took place in April of 2024. Yes, our first project took place in April of 2024. And looking back at it now, it was such a huge milestone because ThriveRise started in March of 2024, and our first project took place in April of 2024 while I was, doing my CWS. I remember having to leave my my CWS location at Ibadan, then coming back to Ilori and planning the entire project and everything in one weekend, and then having to travel back to Ibadan again to meet up with Monday morning for my CWS. It was a whole lot. It was a roller coaster. The disadvantage of being someone who makes decisions randomly is that you have very limited time to plan, which is something that I'm still currently trying to work on by the way. But they're not random, they're not so random, right? These are ideas that are constantly nursed in my heart. And then one day I just decided that it is high time I took action and stopped procrastinating. And we got here. We got here. We got to where we currently are right now. And now, 2 years after our first project, and we already have multiple projects, a registered non-profit. We already got our first grants. That is a huge milestone in 2 years. We already have the community learning center. We already have the skills to learn program with graduates, with proven results, with data to back up the work that we do. So you can imagine the journey. It didn't take 1 year. It didn't take 2 years. It took 4 solid years to get to this point, and we've not even scratched the surface of what we are becoming yet. We've not even started at all. Now, I am not saying all of this to toot my own horn or to impress you. Well, I'm just saying all of this to get you to see the lens to which I am going to be approaching these conversations from. I want you to see the lens to which these conversations are going to be coming from. I am someone who has had to learn on the way, who has had to figure things out along the way, learn from my mistakes, learn from the challenges that has come up, figure out how best to do the next thing. I have learned by getting it wrong at first before getting it right, because trust me, the amount of times that I have gotten it wrong and I have felt so frustrated by the concepts of trying. The amount of times that I felt so frustrated by the concept of trying. But the lessons that I have learned from these failures, oh my God, they are able to carry me for the next couple of projects. Do you understand? So I want you to see and understand the lens at which I am going to be approaching these conversations from. And no, these conversations are not going to be coming from a place of someone that has achieved all of their goals, someone who has arrived at where they want to be in life. I'm going to be bringing the conversations to you from the middle, which I think is one of the most honest places to ask the questions that this show is going to be asking. So now, why made up? Like I said, I tend to do a little bit of impulse decision making. It's not impulsive. I've always wanted to start a podcast. I remember in school, my friends and I used to joke a lot about starting a podcast, and we used to have so many amazing ideas. Oh my God. We used to joke about how we could just set up our phone and start recording, and people would really eat up our podcasts, and that our podcast would be highly intelligent and amazing. So I've always wanted to start a podcast, and I just decided one night that why wait? Why do I need to wait before I am fully ready to start? And here we are. At the core of everything I do is the question, what does a person need from their environment to become who they are capable of being? Right? ThriveRise tries to answer that question through education. However, the Made Up podcast is going to be trying to answer that question by having honest conversations with people, professionals, people from every aspect, every walks of life. So what is the Made Up podcast? The Made Up podcast is a conversation series about what people are actually made of, the real version of them, not the polished version of them. What journey did they take to get to where they currently are? What are the things they saw? What did they learn? What did they learn along the way? What lessons did they learn? What success have they encountered? What has it cost them? These are the conversations that I am going to be having with our guests. And trust me, I'm currently recording this episode after all of the guest recording has been done. So trust me when I say the stories are amazing. Oh my God, the stories are amazing. So I'm really excited to have you people watch and listen wherever you're going to be, watching this from, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm really excited to have you people watch and listen. So every episode, I sit down with one guest and we explore their journey. We start from the middle of their journey, take it all the way to the top, and then bring it back to where they currently are at the moment. And each guest share what their journey has been like, how they got to where they currently are, what was the previous version of themselves like, what has it cost them to get to where they are. All of these questions, we answer all of these questions in our conversations. We figure it out together. That is the word. We figure it out together through these conversations. This is the first episode in season 1, and each season has a theme. The theme for this season is the origin. I want to know the origin story of so many different people. The origin. I want to know their origin story. What made you? The real stuff, the environment, the people, the philosophies, the experience, the turns you did not expect to take. All of these questions, we're going to be exploring it in the origin. I would be sitting down with 7 amazing guests to explore their journey. I'll be sitting down with 7 different guests whose lives did not look like where they started from at all. 7 conversations, 7 different origin stories, and I am excited to tell them to you. New episodes of the Made Up podcast drop every Thursday, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you want to watch short clips, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, or as it is now currently known, X. I am going to be closing this episode with a little bit of honesty. I said I have wanted to do this for the longest time. I have always known I want to start a podcast someday, and I just kept finding reasons not to. I mean, first it was the fact that I do not have, the entire podcast setup. I do not have the podcast microphone or the accurate lightning to do this. I am currently busy building. I've got work to do. The timing is not right. What if I start and I cannot finish it? But all of these things are just excuses. They were just excuses for me to not do what I actually wanted to do. All of these things were just excuses, and they were perfectly justifiable excuses. Until I finally decided, you know what, I no longer want to make all of these excuses. I just want to do. Just like Nike would say, just do it. I just want to do, right? And the way I make these decisions, I am really grateful for it because it gives very little room to doubt myself. I just have to show up whether I like it or not. So many things are quite literally happening in my life all at once, which means that I am not coming to this show as someone who has it all figured out. I do not. I am still figuring things out. I still have so many questions. I still call people who I look up to ask questions all the time. I still sit down with myself in retrospection and ask myself if I am even doing the right thing. Am I doing the right thing? Am I wasting my time? I still have asked myself all of these questions. So I am coming with you as someone who is currently in the process of figuring these things out and who finds the process fascinating. I am coming with you because I believe that the best way to understand and figure out answers to your questions is to talk about it. So this podcast is as much for me as it is for you. The amount of things that I learn from talking to guests is mind-blowing. So many amazing conversations. It would be selfish to enjoy these things alone. So yeah, out of the largeness of my hearts, I am sharing it with the world. And this is what I am inviting you to sit down, listen and learn. Think of it as real conversations with real people who are still building. people who are in the process, people who are figuring things out, and people who have a wealth, a bank of experience to pull from. So come along and share, like, subscribe, and if you are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow and share the link to family, friends, your network. Really, everybody deserves to be in on this conversation. So I would see you in our until next time. Keep becoming.